2025, we are expecting that the GCC market size will touch nearly 60 billion USD.
We have seen the number of GenAI startups more than double between 2021 and now.
And what we are beginning to see is in 2023, companies are indicating that they will continue to grow their digital spend.
Key acquisition here would be in the edtech startup landscape, where we saw Adda 247 acquiring Viksha to create interactive learning experience.
Hello and welcome to the latest episode of nasscom Insights Tech Bytes. I am your host Achyuta Ghosh and I will be taking you through Tech Bytes, where we will cover two things: the latest technology thought leadership from nasscom Insights and technology industry market intelligence, which includes key facts, data, trends and strategies that stood out in the sector in June. The purpose of Tech Bytes is to provide you all an understanding of what is happening in India's rapidly developing tech industry. Before we start, quick check. Have you liked and subscribed to our channel? If not, then please do so that you are staying up to date on the latest happenings in India's tech industry. Press the bell icon right now. Okay, so what's new at nasscom Insights in the last few weeks? We launched a number of compelling reports and we will focus on 3 of them in this episode. We started the month with the release of the 5th nasscom Zinnov GCC Landscape Report. This latest edition of our biennial report titled GCC 4.0, India Redefining the Globalization Blueprint, is a comprehensive publication examining key trends, insights, drivers, and evolution of India's rapidly growing GCC landscape. The second report was on GenAI. GenAI has taken the world by storm this year. We released our take on the GenAI startup landscape last month, titled Generative AI Startup Landscape in India, a 2023 perspective. The study outlines the current Indian startup play in GenAI, key trends in the space, challenges that they face, outlook for the sector, and recommendations for stimulating growth in this fast-growing sector. Lastly, we also released the 4th edition of nasscom Avasant Digital Enterprise Tech Adoption Study, titled Digital Enterprise Maturity 4.0, Digital Persistence Amidst Volatility. This report covers digital spending, transformation initiatives, and technology investments that end-user companies made globally in FY23 across 11 major regions and 12 sectors, and it also provides an outlook on the same for FY24. And now that we are done with the teasers, let's hear from the analyst, the subject matter experts in the team who work on these projects. They will share detailed finding with us. For our first report, GCC 4.0, India Redefining the Globalization Blueprint, we have Prerna with us. Prerna, welcome to Tech Bytes.
Thank you so much, Achyuta. It's great to be here.
Okay, first question to you, Prerna. Could you provide a brief overview of the GCC landscape and its potential as it stands currently?
Sure. So I will share some key figures and insights that reflect the robustness of the GCC landscape in India. So in FY 2023, India had about 1580 plus GCCs with 2740 plus GCC units. And the GCC market size was about 46 billion USD. And if we talk about the total installed GCC talent, that was nearly 1.66 million plus. If we get into the segments, ER&D continues to be the leading segment for India with 56% GCC revenue share and close to 42% of the total GCC workforce. Additionally, in terms of locations, Bangalore leads the pack with nearly 30% of GCC units, and it is the most preferred destination for setting up GCCs in India, followed by NCR, Hyderabad and Pune.
Thanks, Prerna. If we dive a little bit deeper, what are the key drivers that are making India a key GCC hubspot?
Yeah, so in our report, we have outlined 7 key growth pillars. The first one, I will briefly describe each one of them. The first one being India's latent engineering prowess. So India is home to 1440 plus ER&D GCC centers and nearly 695k GCC ER&D talent in FY 2023, which depicts India's robustness in the ER&D space. Further, Indian GCCs are rapidly ascending to product ownership and leadership, as 42% of the GCCs have matured to the portfolio hub stage as compared to 18% a decade ago. So this signifies the maturity Indian GCCs have been able to attain in the ER&D space. The second pillar is India emerging as a GBS powerhouse. So currently India has about 960 plus GCCs with matured functional shared service model, or the GBS construct, and these entities undertake multifunctional value added and business critical operations. So they're driving global functions to accelerate growth and transformation, demonstrating a clear understanding of both business and tech related aspects. The third pillar is Indian GCCs driving digital transformation. Now, with 210 plus GCCs and 315 plus centers across GCCs possessing AI ML capabilities, plus software and internet and BFSI sectors taking the lead in digital COE initiatives, GCCs are increasingly taking the lead in digital transformation. Further, GCCs are adopting a cloud-first strategy and are anticipated to invest significant funds in driving intelligent automation. The fourth pillar is Indian GCCs creating global leaders. So with 5K plus global roles in India in 2022 predicted to touch nearly 20,000 in 2030, which is a phenomenal 4x growth, global roles are expected to grow at a CAGR of nearly 19% from FY 2022 to FY 2030. And if we talk about women leaders, a 67% growth is expected from 18% in 2022 to about 30% in 2030. So that's the fourth pillar. Then the fifth pillar is Indian GCCs establishing global delivery networks. So GCCs are leveraging decentralization to tier 2 and tier 3 locations to achieve cost reductions of nearly 25 to 30%. And hub and spoke model, which is within as well as outside India, is becoming prominent. So GCCs are essentially mastering the art of operating in a hyper-connected network globalization environment. The sixth pillar is Indian GCCs riding the new talent code. Now, GCCs are integrating a multi-generational workforce comprising of Gen Z, millennials and baby boomers by focusing on varied motivators such as work-life balance, compensation as well as company culture. The last and final pillar is Indian GCCs building out sustainability focused offerings. So sustainability, as we all know, is becoming a key business imperative, and GCCs are intertwining sustainability with key business practices by developing sustainable products, adopting circular economy principles, as well as reducing carbon emissions, driving innovation and meeting customer needs.
Thanks, Prerna. Could you share some insights on the outlook for India's GCC sector as we go forward?
Sure. So in the coming years, the increase in newer GCCs as well as the scale of the existing GCCs will have an immense impact on the overall GCC ecosystem. Some targets that we can set for the industry are, by 2025, we are expecting that the GCC market size will touch nearly 60 billion USD. And the number of GCCs are projected to touch about 1900 plus, and the GCC headcount is estimated to reach about 2 million plus.
Thanks, Prerna. These are very stiff targets. What will we need to achieve these targets?
Yeah, so some key recommendations that we've identified are that, GCCs need to act as a monetization engine. So basically, they will need to develop new offerings based on data, analytics and other technologies that help enterprises expand into new markets and drive innovation. Further, they will also need to drive peer-to-peer collaboration, which will help drive efficiency and resilience of the sector. Next, building on the success in attracting America-based companies, GCCs can drive more penetration of European and Asian markets. Also, as TechSpend moves to as-a-service model, GCCs should aim to become the hub for evolution of as-a-service model for the parent. Moreover, the aim should be to accelerate further growth of global leadership roles from India. And lastly, as Gen AI is poised to make massive changes on how technology will be used, GCCs in India should use this opportunity to drive Gen AI-led tech from India in their parent organizations.
Thanks, Prerna. Thanks for giving insights on the GCC landscape report. Viewers, report download link is in the description box below. This report is a paid publication, but we keep running special discount offers on it. Comment on the video if you would like us to share this very special price with you. Thank you. Okay, so Prerna ended her section by talking about Gen AI, and so for our next report, which was on the Gen AI startup landscape in India 2023 perspective, we have Dhiraj to share some key findings from the report. Welcome to the show, Dhiraj.
Yeah, thanks for having me here. I'm so glad to be part of this discussion around one of the hottest topics in this space right now, which is generative AI.
Great. So Dhiraj, let's start with the basics. I believe it's important to understand the difference between Gen AI and artificial narrow intelligence AI, which is basically the pre-Gen AI, right? Could you shed some light on this distinction? And also, while we are at it, how close do you think we are to the next stage of evolution, which is artificial general intelligence, AGI?
Sure. So when it comes to generative AI or Gen AI as we call it, its ability to create original content beyond predefined patterns is what sets it apart from ANI. And while Gen AI focuses on generating new and unique outputs, ANI is more task specific. Other differences can be with respect to their learning model, their awareness, the way they process data, and so on. For example, ANI works primarily on labeled data, but Gen AI works largely on unlabeled data. So differences like these. But when it comes to AGI, my understanding is that we still have a long way to go, because AGI solutions are very autonomous systems that have human-like or even beyond human level capabilities.
Great. And let's shift our focus to the funding aspect, Dhiraj. We are talking about startups at the end of it. I'm curious to know your views on the global funding environment when it comes to Gen AI, and also where do you think funding is flowing within this space when it comes to Gen AI?
Well, the funding scenario in the global Gen AI space looks very interesting. I would say around $20 billion in private investments have already flown into this space till now. What is even more impressive is that more than 50% of this funding got committed during the first half this year itself. This includes Microsoft's announcement of its $10 billion investment in OpenAI, spread over multiple years. And OpenAI is not the only unicorn in this space. We have 13 more companies with valuation of more than $1 billion. So this is clearly a reflection of investors' confidence in this market. And now, if we're talking about funding distribution across various Gen AI categories, it is interesting to observe that around 65% of the funding flowed into visual media and text categories in 2022. But this space is evolving rapidly, so I think it would be interesting to see how or if this trend changes in 2023.
Thanks, Dhiraj. Now let's zoom in on the Indian generative AI landscape, startup landscape. How does the landscape composition and funding scenario look like? Also, we would be interesting to know of any other trends surrounding startups in the space that you have come across in your research.
I'm so glad you asked this question. So we have seen the number of Gen AI startups more than double between 2021 and now. And today we have more than 60 Gen AI startups in India. More than $590 million in funding that the startups have raised till now. Nearly 80% came in since 2021. Now, almost 70% of the startups did not raise any funding in 2022, but almost 80% of them expect to raise some funding in 2023. So I think it's impressive.
Impressive numbers indeed. And what do we know about the market readiness of these startups? Are we looking at some hotspots, some themes in terms of development emerging?
Yes, we are. Bengaluru and Mumbai-Pune regions are emerging as two major hotspots. Around 65% of the Gen AI startups are based in these regions, which is reasonable considering the favorable environment for startups in this region. But still, around 80% companies have not commercialized their products yet. It kind of makes sense because almost 3/4 of the startups in this space are Gen AI native and working towards building their solutions in-house. And since these startups lack patient capital from investors, we have only a small share of startups with market-ready products. However, almost 50% of these companies expect to commercialize their products within 2 years. So I would say the outlook for this landscape looks fairly positive.
Agree, and I think all said and done, the market readiness is like this because most of the startups were created in the last year or so. So I think that makes sense. And coming down to my last question on this topic to you, Dhiraj, since you mentioned that this is a fairly low share of companies that have commercialized their offerings, what do you think are major challenges that Indian Gen AI startups are facing today?
So we spoke to leaders from some Indian Gen AI startups and also surveyed some startups as part of a study. What we heard from them was that lack of high quality training data and lack of funding are the two major challenges that they face. Since the cost of compute is very high, companies with not enough budgets often hit this roadblock. There are some other challenges as well, such as low availability of Gen AI talent, lack of clarity on regulations around Gen AI, right? So Gen AI, since this is a new space and many startups are still navigating this space, nasscom has put forward its set of recommendations for the players for the challenges that they are facing. So key nasscom recommendation themes for growth include co-innovation with stakeholders, focus on responsible use of AI, drive mission scale funding, and enact data privacy law, building talent pipelines, and invest in patient capital for not just Indian but also global applications.
Thanks, Dhiraj.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Viewers, please be reminded that this report is completely free to download. The download link is provided in the description box below. And now to take you through the final report for this month, Digital Enterprise Maturity 4.0, we will have Namita Jain, Practice Lead Insights, to provide some key findings. Welcome to the show, Namita.
Thanks, Achyuta.
To get started, what trends stood out when it came to digital investments by global enterprises in FY23?
Sure, great question, and some interesting trends compared to last year. 4 major things. One, in a year when a lot of curbs were there on overall technology spending, we actually saw digital spend stay intact. And what we are beginning to see is in 2023, companies are indicating that they will continue to grow their digital spend. About 75% of the companies have said that they'll spend about 20% or even more of their technology spend on digital. 50% of that would be on digital products and services, about 20% on digital talent, and the remaining on acquisitions and R&D. We've seen some bit of R&D and M&A go down, and that shift has been seen towards digital talent. So there's a lot more focus on hiring and growing digital talent. Second is on the contracts. How are the digital contracts shaping up? There we've seen the trend come down a little bit and towards consolidation. More contracts of smaller size in terms of duration and value or the ticket size. So what was earlier about 3 to 4 or 4 to 5 years is now 2 to 3 years on average, and a ticket size of anywhere between $10 to $75 million is what we are seeing more commonly. Third trend, I think, is outsourcing, and it's very interesting that despite all the turmoil, we are actually seeing outsourcing grow, and India continues to be the top choice. In fact, India, we've seen, is the preferred location nearly 3x more than the second best competitor. And I think the fourth trend is cloud, and it's very visible. When we had thought that cloud would stabilize, it's actually grown significantly, more than most other digital technology spends, almost 20% CAGR plus, more than that in the last 1 year. And it's continuing to grow. It's likely to grow similarly in 2023 as well. So those 4 major trends are very loud and clear.
Thanks, Namita. You did speak about digital spend increasing this year. Where are the companies going to spend when it comes to digital tech in FY24? What are the areas?
Sure, and some very interesting areas. So the way we have broken them down through the study are, there are certain mainstream technology areas, some emerging, some spent towards the talent, and then finally ESG is one area that's picking up significantly, which is also going to take a cake off the digital spend. So in terms of mainstream, I think cloud and cybersecurity continue to be the top one. But if we go beyond that, it's AI, ML, robotics, and 3D printing this year. And I think it's a little situational because last year we saw blockchain in the top 5. This year we are beginning to see 3D printing and also a little bit of digital twins. In terms of emerging technologies, I think the big focus is on connectivity technologies which will commercialize. So things like 5G, 6G, and how enterprise use cases will come out of them. Those will move from the POC to commercialization, whereas certain technologies such as Web3, Metaverse will see a lot more POC and subsequent investments. So that is the trend we are beginning to see. In terms of digital spend, I think there's a lot more focus. In fact, 30% of the companies have indicated that they'll have about 15% or more of their workforce as digitally skilled workforce, and that's almost 2x of last year. So that's a big shift in terms of how companies are positioning themselves. A lot of this is through hiring as well as upskilling and retraining of existing workforce. And finally, as I spoke about ESG, I think ESG has moved from experimentation, organizations thinking about setting up guidelines to more formal standard guidelines that are globally accepted. And they are also beginning to have IT service providers on board who can help with the overall ESG execution. So those are some major trends that we are beginning to see when it comes to digital spend.
Thanks, Namita. And viewers, for more, please download the reports. There is also a free report. You can find the download link in the video description box below. Next, we move on to our market intelligence section that includes themes and trends that stood out this month in the tech industry. I will invite Prajwal to discuss with us some of these most recent trends and insights. So, welcome to Tech Bytes, Prajwal.
Thank you, Achyuta.
What were the key trends that you observed in the Indian technology industry this month?
Okay, so Achyuta, starting with IT services and BPM, I think the first key trend would be 5G in motion, where we saw Indian IT companies have begun collaborating and setting up advanced testing facility for 5G infrastructure. We also saw launching of a managed private 5G as a service solution in partnership that enables enterprise customers to achieve better business outcomes through integration of private 5G with their existing LAN, WLAN or cloud infrastructure. Our next industry segment is ER&D, where we see expansion in US as one of the key trends. So in this, we saw Indian ER&D companies, who are setting up nearshore engineering centers and software excellence centers in the US. Another trend in ER&D would be continued partnerships, wherein we saw Indian ER&D companies partnering with firms to implement cutting-edge technologies and next-gen capabilities for smart manufacturing and advanced vehicle solutions. Coming to startups, I think the key trend here would be AI in EdTech, where we saw EdTech companies using AI to personalize education by adapting content to suit the needs of the students. We have AI-powered chatbots providing instant learning support and data analysis, offering targeted feedback and identify areas for improvement.
Great, Prajwal. And could you also give us some examples of contracts, partnerships in the Indian tech industry in June?
Sure, Achyuta. So starting with partnerships, the key partnership that we saw here was HCL Tech and Microsoft, expanding their collaboration to boost innovation and adoption of Gen AI with Microsoft's Azure OpenAI service. Now, this strategic partnership will help enterprises leverage Gen AI and develop joint solutions to enable businesses achieve better outcomes and enhance business transformation. Another key transaction in partnership would be Wipro Edge partnering with Spartan Radar. Now, within this partnership, the Wipro will leverage Spartan Radar's software-defined 4D imaging radar technology to build next-gen advanced driver assistance systems, which we call it as ADAS, on the Wipro Cloud Car platform. Through this partnership, Wipro also plans to invest in Spartan Radar. Coming to contracts, I think the key here would be Ocano Bank selecting TCS Banks, which is a core banking software suite developed by TCS for its pan-Europe core banking transformation. Now, TCS's SaaS-based digital banking core will help the bank to simplify its IT landscape and launch a value-added financial services.
Thanks, Prajwal. Any acquisitions that you saw this month in the tech sector?
Sure, Achyuta. Sure. So the key acquisition here would be in the edtech startup landscape, where we saw Adda 247 acquiring Veeksha to create interactive learning experience. Now, with this acquisition, Adda 247 will offer interactive learning modules to students to enable an in-depth understanding of concepts through better utilization or visualizations.
Thanks, Prajwal.
Thanks, Achyuta.
This brings us to the conclusion of this month's episode. Viewers, I appreciate your patience and I hope you found the session informative. To download our reports, please visit the nasscom community and the nasscom website. We have an interesting lineup of reports covering a wide range of topics for July, so keep checking back. Please like and click the bell icon to be notified as soon as new and exciting videos are uploaded to the NASSCOM Insights channel. And I look forward to your comments on the video. Thank you and stay safe.